Hey everyone, and welcome to our deep dive. We're tackling a question that's fascinated people for, well, probably as long as we've been looking up at the stars. Are we alone in the universe?
And judging by this stack of research, we're not the only ones obsessed with aliens, UFOs, and the search for life beyond Earth.
Yeah, it's a lot to get through. But we're diving deep into all of it, from ancient myths to the latest scientific discoveries.
You know, it's interesting. The idea of extraterrestrial life, it's not some new modern thing. It's woven throughout human history.
Oh, absolutely. It's kind of humbling, right? We're looking up at the same stars our ancestors did, and we're asking the same questions. We've got stories of celestial beings from ancient civilizations, so clearly we've been pondering this for centuries.
And those ancient beliefs, they weren't just stories. They were humanity's early attempts to make sense of our place in the cosmos. That need to understand where we fit in, it's still driving us today. But I'd argue the 20th century really amplified things. Oh, for sure. Roswell, the Betty and Barney Hill abduction, they weren't just stories. They felt real. People felt like they could connect to them. That's when this modern obsession with UFOs and aliens really took hold, don't you think?
Totally. Those events, plus that enduring fascination we all have with the unknown, well, it's what fuels so much science fiction. And then the fiction ends up shaping how we picture extraterrestrials, like a feedback loop of mystery and imagination.
It makes you wonder, though, right? Like, which came first? Did those events inspire the fiction, or did the fiction make us more likely to see what we want to see in the sky? Are we seeing UFOs because Hollywood told us that's what they'd look like?
It's a classic chicken or the egg dilemma. But one thing we know for sure is that science fiction often taps into our deepest fears, our fascinations, and it projects those onto the big screen. It makes it all feel even more real, even scarier.
Totally. But what about the people looking for real-life answers? You know, not just on screen. We have actual scientists at SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, out there listening for signals from other civilizations.
It's a testament to just how ingenious humans can be. But it's more than just listening. We're also on the hunt for habitable planets, those Goldilocks planets. Not too hot, not too cold, orbiting other stars. And of course, we're searching for signs of life a bit closer to home within our own solar system.
Right. We've got rovers on Mars, probes exploring the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. We've got telescopes so powerful they could spot a firefly on a moon orbiting Neptune. The future is now, folks.
And when we try to quantify the odds of actually finding life out there, we have things like the Drake equation. It tries to estimate how many detectable civilizations might be in our galaxy. Takes into account things like star formation rates, lifespan of intelligent civilizations. It's pretty mind-boggling.
Okay, break it down for me. What's the Drake equation really telling us? Is it even reliable?
Well, that's the big debate, right? We don't have firm values for every variable in that equation. Some people even argue it's more of a thought experiment than a precise tool. But here's the thing. Even with the limitations, even if the equation's off by, say, thousands, the universe is just so vast, meaning there's still a really high probability that other life forms exist out there.
Hold on, so you're saying there could be hundreds, thousands, maybe millions of civilizations out there. This is blowing my mind. But if the math adds up, why haven't we actually made contact yet?
Well, that's the billion-dollar question, right? Or maybe more like the million light-year question.
It's kind of the ultimate question, isn't it?
It really is. It's possible we just haven't looked in the right places yet. Or maybe we just haven't been listening long enough. Or maybe we've seen signs, but we've been calling them something else.
You're talking about UFOs, aren't you?
Maybe.
I knew we'd get here eventually. It's like the elephant in the room, or the spaceship, I guess, every time we talk about aliens.
Yeah, they always seem to find their way into the conversation, don't they? But there's a reason for that. These unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAP as they're sometimes called, they're the closest thing we have to actual evidence.
And there's some pretty compelling cases out there, like the Phoenix Lights, seen by hundreds, maybe thousands of people. And then there are those tic-tac UFO encounters, the ones reported by Navy pilots. These aren't your average Joe claiming to see some weird lights in the sky. We're talking trained observers, people whose literal job is to identify objects in the air.
And you're right to point that out, the credibility of some of these witnesses.
Yeah.
When you have a trained observer, like a pilot, reporting something unusual, something they can't explain, it adds a whole other layer to the whole thing.
Oh, for sure. And then you've got that whole thing with the government secrecy, which really doesn't help matters. The release of those Navy UFO videos a few years ago, that really sent people down a rabbit hole. Did you see those? What's your take on that?
Well, it definitely makes you think there's more to some of these sightings than just, weather balloons or some other easy explanation. or misidentified aircraft. At the very least, it shows the government's taking it seriously enough to at least look into it.
You can't deny the footage, right?
Mm.
Pretty wild stuff. So where do you land on all of this? Are you on the I want to believe team, or are you more skeptical?
For me, it's not really about picking a side like Team Alien or Team Skeptic. It's more about approaching the unknown with a good balance of curiosity and critical thinking. It's really easy to just jump to conclusions, but I think the important thing is to keep asking questions, keep examining the evidence, and be open to possibilities, things we maybe haven't even thought of.
Love that. It's like that Carl Sagan quote, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. We might not be there yet, but the search itself is fascinating.
It really is. And even if some of those UFO sightings do end up having a totally normal explanation, just the act of investigating those things, it pushes our understanding. Who knows what we might discover along the way, right?
Yeah. That's a great point. Think about all the scientific advances we've made in astronomy, physics, our understanding of Earth, all because we dared to look beyond what we thought we knew.
Exactly. And we can't forget about the sheer scale of the universe we're talking about here. Billions and billions of galaxies with billions of stars in each, and the potential for planets around a whole bunch of them, if not most.
It really puts things in perspective, doesn't it? Our little blue planet, just a tiny speck of dust in this massive cosmic ocean of possibilities.
And the possibilities are pretty much endless. We've only scratched the surface of what's out there.
Speaking of scratching the surface, let's talk about what those life forms might actually be like. What do you think we're dealing with here? Are we talking little green men or something even weirder?
Now that's where things get really interesting. It's easy to let our imaginations run wild with images of extraterrestrials, but the reality is we have no clue what to expect. Everything we understand about life comes from one single data point: Earth.
So you're saying there could be life forms that completely defy what we even consider biology, like life as we don't know it.
Exactly. Life that evolved under completely different conditions, different biochemistry, different forms of energy. It might not even be carbon-based.
Okay, that's kind of both exciting and terrifying at the same time. Are we even ready to meet our galactic neighbors, especially if they look nothing like us?
That's a question we might have to deal with sooner than we think. But I think it all comes down to this. Are we willing to broaden our definition of life? To embrace something truly alien, even if it challenges how we see the universe?
It's like that saying, right? The universe is not only stranger than we imagine, it's stranger than we can imagine.
And that's a pretty amazing thought. It means there's always something new to learn, something new to find out there. The universe is full of surprises, especially if you're willing to go looking for them.
Couldn't agree more. So to everyone listening, next time you're looking up at the stars, just remember you're a part of this huge cosmic mystery too. And who knows, maybe someday we'll finally have that answer. Are we alone?
Or maybe an even bigger, more profound question will come up, like, what do we do with that knowledge? How will knowing if we're alone or not change how we see ourselves, our place in the universe?
Now that is a question for the ages. Thanks for joining us on this cosmic adventure, everyone. Until next time, keep looking up and keep those minds open.